part of his story, which is called Between the Cities. It's really quite different from anything else we've had. It's about. It's set in this sort of strange bridge part of a city, which has been designed, evolved to deal with the differences in environment between different places. So I'm going to read this excerpt that he's asked me to read out, and it's in the middle of the story. Deep in the scarcely lit hallway, through the third to last door on the right, was a perfectly typical door leading to a room that was anything but. The decor, the choices in wallpaper, even the carpeting possessed a style from which no origin could be deduced. At one point, the fractalesque floral carpeting was reminiscent of a century-old royal style from Ostow. The wood panel covering the lower third of the tangerine walls was almost unmistakably Adrington. When the door shut and the receptionist had come through, all August would do was wait awkwardly. The evenly spaced symmetrical rows of busybodies hadn't turned their heads from their workstations. Some had desks covered in various flecks of ink and their tools. Others had a more modest setup of single typewriter, a cup of pens, and a neatly stacked pile of books. Spines faced out. She cleared her throat to obtain a speck of attention, but none could be spared. It was unclear whether they had been too busy to notice that she was there or just too busy to acknowledge her. The fragments of conversation travelled along the thin air. Most were of ink and typefaces. One suggested the typewriter dings could be mitigated by dropping to a new line sooner. A typist argued that the ink frames were making it difficult to breathe. Another suggested if air quality was such a concern, they should put out their cigarettes, as it was mostly finished anyway. Finally, a woman rushed out from the back office. Her hands accommodated the abrupt turns between the rows of desks, not spilling so much of a drop of whatever was in her cup. She apologized profusely as she approached August. "You must be the woman Mablo was on about." She juggled her cup and papers around until a free hand grasped August. "Look, just grab a desk, wherever's free. Try and get a typewriter. Good first day's work, that, unless you're a creative. Visually speaking, specifically." "I dabble in watercolours, but that's the extent of it," she replied. The woman pondered this, scowled, bit her lip in contemplation, and waved it off in one fluid movement. "Never mind that, it's all in the typefaces and copy anyway. The best posters don't have pictures. If you could manage to get saddled with an art station, just have fun with it. We can always revise." She glanced at the unoccupied desk as the woman returned to the back. As luck would have it, each was an art station. Unkempt resting grounds of ink pads, pen knives, stencils, and various types of paint. August knew to be expensive in hobby shops. Where the typists had books, the artists had stacks of blank paper that varied in size. Beneath the desk was a small set of drawers on wheels. Each contained an assortment of letter stamps, organised both alphabetically and by typeface. The pouch hanging off the side of her desk contained papers written on identical stationery. It was copy for the print materials, as the title suggested. Before she perused them, she took some time to tidy the station. The splatter of inks and paints had long since dried and seeped into the wood. There was nowhere to put the tools, but as she looked around the room, she noticed a set of shelves near the back where the tools resided. When she finally pored over the copy, each word tightened a knot in her stomach. Many of the words, mostly compiled into one-liners, she found herself reading over and over again. It seemed she hadn't misread them after all. The document was divided into two columns, one designated to Ostow and the other to Adrington. Those are the two places. Much of the writing had been built on stereotypes she had heard in passing. Others were outlandish claims, how Adrington women were addled with sexual disease, or how Ostow still used concentration camps. Many were lazily abject calls to violence. God would smile on a burning Adrington. Who would want to displease God? Or every child in Ostow would rather have a bullet in their head than a doll in hand. Strangely enough, no one shared her outrage. The typist churned out line after line. The artist pieced together collages. There were small groups huddled round various desks discussing the effectiveness of writing and how well it would translate to art. They even debated an anti-Semitic angle without a scrap of hesitation. August clenched the papers between her hands and stormed towards the back office. Through the kitchenette and past the lavatories were another, shorter set of desks. The woman who greeted her was sat amongst an array of scattered mugs and dishes.